I no hear anything. I think say, I sleep too deep. Chukwibuka couldn't even formulate words. He bathed baby Timalahin quickly but thoroughly, dressed him in clean clothes, grabbed a diaper bag, and stormed toward the door with his son in his arms. Where you dey go? Yewande asked, her voice small with growing fear. Hospital, to make sure he no swallow anything way go harm am. Ah, but please make I follow you. No, stay right here and continue your sleeping. That nah, the only thing you sabi. With that devastating statement, he slammed the door with such force that their wedding photo on the wall tilted sideways. At the hospital, Chukwibuka paced back and forth in the waiting area like a caged lion, his mind racing through worst-case scenarios. After what felt like hours but was actually 45 minutes, a nurse emerged with a reassuring smile. Olga, your baby day fine. We check am well. He just gets small flour for inside ear, but nothing serious. Chukwibuka almost collapsed with relief. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Father. Meanwhile, back at their apartment, Yewande was sweating profusely despite the air conditioner running on full blast. For perhaps the first time in her life, she was fully, completely, terrifyingly awake. I done mess up. I don't really scatter everything. Oh, she tried calling Chukwibuka's phone repeatedly, but each call went straight to voicemail. He had switched it off deliberately. When he finally returned home later that night, around 11, he didn't greet her or even acknowledge her presence. He walked past her as if she were invisible, went directly to their bedroom, and gently placed sleeping Timalahin in his crib. Then he stood in the doorway with his arms folded across his chest, his face completely expressionless. Yewande ran to him immediately. Chukwibuka, I beg you, I very sorry. I know say, I mess up. Sorry. Nah, only sorry you, sabi talk. You been day sleep while my son nearly kill himself. If anything been happen to AMU, for still day here, day sleep, abi. Tears began streaming down her face. I know, I just been tired. I try to stay awake. I even chew gum. I even ... He pointed at her, his fingers shaking with suppressed emotion. Yewande, I dan try. I dan close one eye, even close the two eyes for you. But today, my eyes open, finish. Both eyes dan wide. Chukwibuka, please ... double quotes. No, you go hear me finish. I no fit trust you again. You no get sense of responsibility at all. This house, no be playground. She fell to her knees, not caring how dramatic it looked. I go do better. I promise say, I go change. Give me chance. I dan hear that story before. Tomorrow morning, pack your things, go back to your mama house. I need space to think. The words hit her like physical blows. You know fit send me komat, with baby O. And who talk say, I day send you with am. I day send only you. He's safer here with me than with person way, go sleep while house day burn. She knelt there, begging until her knees ached, but Chukwibuka simply turned and walked out of the room. Eventually, exhausted from crying, Yewande fell asleep, right there on the floor, in a kneeling position. She slept in that uncomfortable posture all night, her body finally too tired to even relocate to the couch. By morning, Chukwibuka had already packed a small bag for her, placed her phone and some cash on top, and called a taxi. I dan call kick already. And I dan inform your mama say you day come. Yewande stood outside their apartment building 30 minutes later with swollen, red eyes and a small traveling bag. She looked up at the cloudy Lagos sky and shook her head slowly. So my marriage go end because of sleep. She entered the taxi slowly, moving like someone who had aged 20 years overnight, and sniffled throughout the entire journey from Lekki to the driver, sensing drama he didn't want to be part of, simply increased his radio volume and focused on navigating Lagos traffic. When she finally arrived at her mother's compound, she climbed out slowly, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, and knocked weakly on the metal gate. "Mama, nah, me, daughter." From inside the house, Mama Falake's voice rang out with shocking coldness. "Go back to your husband's house." "This one, nah, your husband's house." "Mama, he send me, kamat, oh good." "Then go back, beg am." Yewande was stunned. "Mama, I know, get where to go. Just let me inside for today. I fit even sleep for floor." Her mother's bitter laugh came through the gate. "Of course, you fit sleep for floor. Nah, your favorite thing be that sleeping. Mama please, I don change." Oh. The gate opened slightly, and Mama Folake's face appeared in the gap, skeptical and unmoved. "Change. So how many hours you dan stay awake today?" Yewande looked down at her feet. About 2.5 hours. Come back when you reach 6 hours." With that, she slammed the gate shut with finality. Yewande stood there like an abandoned chicken in the rain. She looked left toward the main road, looked right toward the neighbor's compound, then sat down on her bag and began to cry properly. "God, oh, I done finish. Even my own mama chase me. Where I go sleep tonight?" She wandered around Cirilla for hours like a refugee in her own city, carrying her small bag and receiving concerned stares from people who recognized her. That evening, as darkness fell over Lagos, she found herself near a local mama-put restaurant called Iya Basira's Kitchen. Outside the fenced compound was a long wooden bench where customers sometimes waited. She sat there, exhausted beyond measure, and tried to sleep. But for the first time in her entire existence, sleep absolutely refused to come. The bench was too hard. The night air was too cold. Mosquitoes formed what sounded like a choir above her head, their collective buzzing a torturous symphony. She covered herself with a thin wrapper from her bag and made a desperate promise to the universe. "If I survive this night, I swear to God, say, I go change. I go change completely." Morning eventually arrived, as mornings do, indifferent to human suffering. Yewande looked like something that had been through a natural disaster. Her eyes were swollen like overripe tomatoes. Her hair stood up in multiple directions like badly installed antennas. Her lips were cracked and dry as she dragged herself along Adeniran Ogunsanya Street, barely aware of her surroundings. She noticed a handwritten sign on a wooden board nailed to a gate. "Night security guard wanted, don't no sleeping. Standing job, 0.12-hour shift." She blinked twice, reading it again to make sure the night without sleep hadn't caused hallucinations. "No sleeping, ah, God, nah, me, you, day, talk to so." She almost walked past, convinced it was too ironic to be real. But something made her stop. She turned around and read it a third time. "No sleeping." She looked up at the overcast sky, addressing God directly. "So this, nah, the punishment I be. Okay, oh. But if you day try teach me lesson, I receive am." She knocked on the gate, and a tall man with a protruding belly emerged, looking skeptical. "Yes, Wetin, you want? I see the sign. I want to apply for the job." He looked her up and down slowly, taking in her disheveled appearance. You want to be security?" "Yes, sir, I serious. I need this job." He laughed, a deep rumbling sound. "You look like person way fit sleep for standing position set." how Yewande do night duty. Yewande raised her right hand, as if taking an oath in court. I promise you, sir, I fit do am. I need this job die because. After more questioning and a brief interview with the facility manager in a cramped office that smelled like old papers and determination, they gave her a uniform, a whistle that looked like it was manufactured during colonial times, and a flashlight that belonged in a museum. Your shift start tonight, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. No sitting down, no nodding, no dozing. If we catch you sleeping even for 1 second, nah, automatic sec. That evening Yewande arrived at 6 p.m. sharp, wearing her oversized security uniform that hung on her like borrowed clothes. She stood at the gate with determination burning in her chest like holy fire. The first 3 hours were manageable. She whistled competently, paced back and forth, and felt almost confident. But by 9 p.m., the struggle began. Her legs started vibrating involuntarily. Her eyelids felt like they had weights attached. By midnight, she was in full warfare. She sang every worship song she knew at full volume. She danced like someone at an overnight vigil. She marched around the compound perimeter like a soldier on patrol. She chewed bitter cola until her mouth felt like sandpaper. She slapped her own cheeks repeatedly. She even put her feet in a bucket of cold water she'd brought specifically for this purpose. By 3 a.m., when Lagos was at its quietest and most dangerous for someone fighting sleep, she began praying loudly enough to disturb nearby residents. Lord, hold my eyelids, arrest my backbone, slap me yourself if I bend. At one point, she tied a rubber band around her wrist and kept snapping it to create pain that would keep her conscious. Some night guards from the neighboring compound came to mock her. See, Madam Security. How far now? You dey compete for war. But Yewande ignored them completely, her face set with determination. Face your own shift. I no dey here for nonsense, please. One of them laughed and gestured at her flashlight. Who even give you that kind touch? We get women for security work. But Yewande didn't reply again. She had only one mission: conquer sleep. And slowly, painfully, day by day, she began to succeed. Each 12-hour shift felt like climbing a mountain with stones tied to her feet, but she stood through them all. No chair, no rest, no mercy. By the end of the first month, she had lost 5 kilograms. Her skin had become noticeably pale from stress and lack of proper sleep during the day, since she now slept in awkward intervals, never deeply, always alert. Her feet developed calluses from standing all night, but her mind had become sharp as a blade, her awareness heightened like a predator. One morning, after an especially difficult night, she looked at herself in the small, cracked mirror in the security post bathroom and barely recognized the woman staring back. Kai, I know be Yewande, the sleeper again. I don't turn Yewande the watcher. She also started saving every single naira from her modest salary. She ate less, spent nothing on luxuries, and planned carefully. 2 months into her security job, on a Sunday afternoon, after her Saturday night shift, she gathered all her courage and went back to her mother's house. She knocked on the gate, her heart pounding. Mama Folake came out and folded her arms across her chest. You again, what you want this time? Mama, please just hear me out. I done change. You done talked that thing before. Yewande wetin be new this time. Instead of begging with words alone, Yewande showed her mother the proof. She lifted her feet to display her cracked heels, rough from standing on concrete all night. She showed her the worn security boots that had become her constant companions. She pulled out her security ID card, which had her slightly haggard photo on it. Mama, I never sleep in peace for 60 days. I day work as night guard, standing 12 hours every night. Mama Folake's eyes widened with genuine shock. Night guard? You? Yes, Mama, I now know the value of staying awake. I now understand how careless I've been day behave. Her mother stepped aside, and for the first time in months, a small smile appeared on her face. Come inside, my daughter. You Dan really graduate. After Mama Folake welcomed her back, Yewande didn't rest in any traditional sense. Rest had become her enemy, her former life. She threw herself into household work with an intensity that confused everyone. She cleaned the entire compound before sunrise. She washed her mother's clothes and the neighbors' clothes. She cooked elaborate meals. She fetched water from the communal tap. She even swept the gutter in front of their building. Mama Folake watched all this with confusion and growing concern. Yewande, you dey run for a House of Assembly election. Why you dey do like this? Mama, leave me. I just dey practice for my second chance. Ahan, but you hardly sleep again. Oh, wedding happen. Yewande smiled, a sad but knowing smile. Sleep, leave me, when I realize Watini Don lose. That evening, she sat with her mother for a serious conversation. Mama, I want to go big, Chukwibu, but I no want go empty. Mama Folake nodded approvingly. That good plan. You need to beg with action, not just tears and story. The next day, Yewande went to Balagon Market with her carefully saved money. She bought baby clothes for Oluwatimilin baby formula and a new set of plates to replace the ones she had broken during her sleeping episodes. Then, with her heart hammering against her ribs, she took a bus to Lekki and stood outside the gate of what used to be her home. She took a deep breath and knocked. The gate opened slowly, and Chukwibuka appeared. His face showed surprise, then hardened into the expressionless mask she had last seen. Yewande wetin you dey find here? She greeted him humbly, bowing slightly. Good evening, I come to beg again, but this time, I bring proof. He sighed heavily. I know want your tears and promises. No tears today, just truth. She opened her bag and brought out her security ID card, holding it up like evidence in court. I day work, night shift. 12 hours straight, no chair, no sleep. That rain dan beat me. Mosquito Don chopped me like soup. I dan stay awake every night since you send me away. Chukwibuka took the card from her hand and examined it closely. Then he laughed, but it was a laugh of disbelief rather than mockery. You, security. The same person way day sleep, like person way dem, give anesthesia. Yes, Yewande said quietly. I do, and because I've been have to fight for my life before I lose everything. I nearly lose my baby. I nearly lose you. Chukwibuka didn't respond immediately. His face remained unreadable, but she could see something shifting behind his eyes. She stepped forward and held out the shopping bags containing the baby items she had bought. I buy this for please. Just allow me see, A.M. Chukwibuka hesitated, looking at the bags, then at her face, studying her as if trying to determine whether this transformation was real or just another performance. Finally, he turned and went inside. He returned moments later, holding baby Oluwatimilin, who had grown noticeably bigger in the months they'd been apart. The moment Timilehin saw his mother, his little legs began kicking excitedly, and he reached out his chubby hands toward her. Yewande couldn't contain herself. She rushed forward and took him from Chukwibuka's arms, tears streaming down her face. My Timilehin, my baby, my precious one. Mummy miss you die. She covered his face with kisses while he giggled and grabbed at her hair. Chukibuka stood watching this reunion quietly, his arms folded across his chest. After several minutes of watching mother and child reconnect, he finally spoke. Timalayan miss you well, and I miss you too, but I dey fear Yewande. I dey really fear. Yewande nodded, understanding completely, while bouncing Timalayan gently. I understand your fear, but please, give me just one chance to earn back your trust. I ready to serve this marriage like proper wife. Like NYSC person way serious with postin'. Chukibuka's stern expression finally cracked, and a small smile appeared. Go inside and greet my mama. She dey inside. Yewande nearly fainted from shock and joy combined. You mean I fit enter? Don't over-celebrate yet before I change my mind, he warned. But his tone had softened considerably. Yewande practically floated into the house, still carrying Timalayan on her hip. Mama Chukibuka was sitting in the living room, watching a Yoruba movie on African magic and sipping tea from her favorite china cup. When she saw Yewande enter, she paused the television with the remote and waited. Yewande immediately went down on both knees in front of her mother, carefully adjusting Timalayan on her lap as she did so. Mama, good evening ma. I come to beg you with clean hands and clean spirit. No excuse, no story, just say, I sorry. Mama Chukibuka stared at her for a long moment, her face revealing nothing. Then she asked calmly, you ready to wake up for life now? Yes mama. My eyes, Dan sharp finish. Even Aunt Way Day, crawl for night. I go CAM now. So you, then, finish with that your sleeping ministry. Mama, I don't leave that ministry completely. I then even join another department, the Department of Action and Vigilance. Mama Chukibuka allowed herself a small smile. All right, stand up. Go and sweep the backyard, make I see whether this your change, nah real thing or nah audio. Yewande stood up sharply, adjusting baby Timalayan on her hip. Mama, say no more. I go sweep this whole compound, reach your neighbor fence, and I know go even blink. True to her word, Yewande threw herself into proving her transformation. She swept every corner of the compound until not a single leaf remained. She organized the outdoor storage area that had become cluttered. She even cleaned the gate and the external walls where dust had accumulated. The next few days felt like final examination period for Yewande. Every action was observed, every decision monitored. She woke up at 5 every morning without alarm. She prepared breakfast before Chukibuka's 6:30 wake-up time. She led family devotion, reading Bible passages with her eyes wide open, praying with genuine faith. She cleaned the entire apartment systematically. She changed Timalayan's diapers the moment they needed changing. She managed Chukibuka's schedule like a professional personal assistant, reminding him of meetings and ensuring his clothes were always ready. Chukibuka watched all of this quietly. Every single day, he waited for her to slip back into old patterns. He waited for the morning he would wake up to find her still sleeping at 8 a.m. He waited for the burnt pot, the forgotten errand, the closed eyes during the day, but it never happened. One evening, about 2 weeks into her probationary period, he came home from work to find the house spotlessly clean. A delicious pot of jollof rice with fried plantain waiting on the dining table, and baby Timalayan, freshly bathed and sleeping peacefully in his crib. Yewande wasn't sleeping though. She was in the kitchen chopping vegetables and singing worship songs, softly. Chukibuka entered quietly and wrapped his arms around her from behind. She jumped slightly, startled. You scared me, oh. Sorry, he said, resting his chin on her shoulder. I just been day watching. I been day wait for you to fall back to your old ways. But you never disappoint me. Yewande turned around in his arms, her eyes becoming moist. Chukwuebuka, I know be that girl again. I fight, sleep, and I won. I fight for this home. And I ready to keep fighting. He kissed her forehead gently. I proud of you. You know, just fight, sleep. You fight for yourself. For us. For our family. That night, Yewande slept peacefully beside her husband in their bed for the first time in months. But this sleep was different. It wasn't the escape mechanism of someone avoiding responsibility. It wasn't the unconscious surrender of someone who couldn't control their own body. It was the earned rest of someone who had worked hard, who had conquered their demons, who had fought for their place and won. She had graduated with distinction from what she now jokingly called the Lazy Wife Rehabilitation Academy. Even the spirit of sleep, that old companion that had dominated her life for so many years, had finally packed its bags and departed permanently. As she drifted off that night, Timalahin sleeping peacefully in his crib nearby, and Chukwuebuka's arm draped protectively across her waist, Yewande smiled. She thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. The embarrassment at school, the warnings from her mother, the disaster in her kitchen, the night she spent on a wooden bench with nowhere to go, the 60 days of standing guard while her body screamed for sleep, the slow rebuilding of trust. Every painful step had been necessary. Every moment of struggle had shaped her into someone stronger. She had learned that love without responsibility was just a beautiful prison. That marriage wasn't about finding someone who would tolerate your weaknesses, but about becoming someone worthy of the love you'd been given. That change was possible, but only when the pain of staying the same became greater than the pain of transformation. She had learned that sometimes you had to lose everything to understand what you had. That rock bottom wasn't the end of your story, but the foundation on which you could rebuild something better. The next morning, Yewande woke up naturally at 5 a.m., feeling refreshed but not groggy. She looked over at Chukwuebuka, still sleeping peacefully, and that baby Timalahin beginning to stir in his crib. She slipped quietly out of bed, said a prayer of thanksgiving, and went to the kitchen to begin her day. As she prepared breakfast, she could hear Lagos waking up outside their window, the early morning calls of street vendors, the distant sound of generators starting up, the city beginning its daily hustle. She smiled to herself, thinking about how she used to sleep through all of this, missing the beauty and energy of morning. Now, she was part of it. Now, she was awake in every sense of the word, physically, emotionally, spiritually. She had become the woman she needed to be, not just for Chukwuebuka or for Timalahin, but for herself. The journey from sleep ambassador to the watcher hadn't been easy, but it had been necessary. And standing there in her kitchen, with her family safe and her second chance secured, Yewande understood that the greatest victory wasn't defeating sleep. It was waking up to the life she had almost lost and choosing, every single day, to stay present for it. When Chukwuebuka emerged 30 minutes later, dressed for work, he found the dining table set, breakfast ready, and his wife alert and smiling. He walked over and kissed her cheek. "Good morning, my wife." "Good morning, my husband," she replied, her voice full of warmth and purpose. As he sat down to eat, baby Timalahin began crying from the bedroom. Before Chukwuebuka could even stand up, Yewande was already moving. "I got she said confidently, walking toward their son's cries with the steady gait of someone who had finally learned to carry her responsibilities without collapsing under their weight. And in that simple, domestic moment, a wife attending to her crying child, while her husband ate breakfast before heading to work. In the chaos and opportunity of Lagos there was redemption. There was hope. There was the quiet triumph of someone who had stared at their worst self and decided to become better. Not perfect, but present. Not without struggle, but no longer defeated by it. Yewande had fought her battle and emerged victorious, and that victory tasted sweeter than any sleep she had ever known.